Well, Damian Green is here, the former First Secretary of State and a close ally of Theresa May. Good evening to you, Damian Green. How do you think it's looking tonight? Do you think the letters are there?
I've no idea. I mean, until Graham Brady speaks, he's the only source that matters on this. I think if people have written letters to this degree, if their 48 letters are in, I think this is an act of monumental self-indulgence. People outside the Westminster bubble will be looking at this thinking, we've got a Prime Minister doing really difficult negotiations at the sharp end of one of the most important decisions this country's taken for 50 years.
But people you hear, Owen Paterson said, not doing them well, and in the last week things have moved. You've got Remainers apparently considering. I mean, what would you say to a Remainer who's considering poised with a pen in his or her hand?
Well, don't, because as I say, we are at the stage, the Prime Minister has actually been abroad today talking to people. There are still negotiations to be had at the Council this weekend.
Have you spoken to her? Have you spoken to her in the last few days?
No. But what people watching will think is this is not what should be happening, that it's really important matter for the country, not just the Conservative Party, but the country. To undermine a Prime Minister at this stage seems to me to be wholly wrong.
And what do you make of the argument of people saying, well, actually, we're not undermining her, she's not being undermined at this stage. Actually, there's a lot of shooting herself in the foot in the way that she's handled the negotiations, the way that she's corralled information, as Owen Paterson said in his letter.
Well, I think that the fact that, for instance, Dominic Raab took over from David Davis
and felt the same, and felt he was shut out as well.
But he was there for long enough to do negotiations. David Davis did negotiations. I think that people need to step back and look at the bigger picture on this, of what we look like to our own people and what we look like around the world as a country. It cannot be sensible for somebody to say now is the time to try and get rid of the Prime Minister.
Well, you know Theresa May well. What will be in her mind tonight, seriously?
Well, she will have, as she always has, a huge resilience and sense of duty, and say she is doing her best to find a deal which is a good deal for Britain, and she's being undermined from within by people, frankly, some of whom are more interested in who is the next leader of the Conservative Party than they are about the future of this country.
I'm going to come back to you, but just very briefly, it was always said she was speaking in the nation's interest by her supporters, but in the last week it's felt more she was speaking in her self-interest.
Well, the only people who said that have been the opposition parties, and I think the other thing that, if colleagues are doing this, they should consider is that the person who will most benefit from this is Jeremy Corbyn, and no Conservative should want that.